Hey up guys, S-Man back at it again with a brand new Horizons review, and all I gotta say is, we're back. This episode was incredible. Now, let's just get right into this review. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Before anything, I do want to add that there was a little bonus scene in today's episode that ties in the current Pokemon Go event. I think it's nice seeing all the Volt Tappers having a meal, and it's also really cool that we see Professor Willow in the anime. I'm not a big Go fan, but I definitely think it's interesting to see characters like him appear in the anime, because if he appears in the anime, I feel like anyone can, and that just makes me excited to see like everything starting to connect more, like game characters, even though they're not highly tied to the anime. We see more game characters knowing anime. It also reminds me of when Larry was in the background of that one episode. But basically, yeah, if you don't play Pokemon Go, you're not gonna find any interest in it. I've only started recently getting back into Go because of all the new content they've been adding, and I think that's definitely cool that they tied it into the episode. And I like that they've been tying these kinds of things into episodes. Like we saw Needlething promote the Terra hat, which I'm gonna be honest, I forgot if I claimed that or not. I hope I did, because actually, no, I really don't. I don't use the Terra hat. But yeah, I think we should start seeing more tie-ins like this, and I definitely think it's cool. I hope we eventually get Cap in Scarlet and Violet like we did with all the Ash Cap Pokemon and along with Ash's Janini's team, but we will see about that. Alright, so this episode starts off with the Volt Tappers arriving on a beach, and Nico, Roy, and Ludlow actually just stay there while the others prepare dinner and just do some maintenance on the ship. And they have a fun little beach day. We see Nico and Roy having a bit of fun with some Pokemon. We see a lot of new Pokemon too. We see Trio, we see Cloth in this episode, and we see the main Pokemon of this episode, Palafin and Finizen. And I definitely think that's cool. And I love that they're more nonchalantly just like having these Pokemon keep. Then we meet this guy, Swim Trunks Man, who is basically, his main mission is to clean up the beach with his Garbodor and hype up Palafin. This is how you do a character of the day, in my opinion. He's fun, he has his own little gimmick, and he just runs around throughout the episode and provides to the plot, even though he's not important. He does practically nothing to this episode, but he is literally just Palafin's hype man that Palafin needed for this episode. I do want to say, this episode was weirdly paced compared to a Pokemon episode. Like, we get Nico and Roy introduction, the introduction to the Swim Trunks guy, and then randomly out of nowhere Palafin appears, and we just have a narration of over all the nice things Palafin does and its powers. But I feel that works, because this episode felt more like a parody to a superhero episode, and that's the charm of it. We have these fast-paced action scenes of Palafin just saving people's lives on the regular. Like, we see this kid lose its keys, and we see Palafin use its abilities to locate them. I feel like if we never see Palafin again, which I hope that's wrong, this was a really good way to basically promote this lovable Pokemon and show him off in the anime. We get to know each one of its abilities with full detail by seeing it perform all of them within these like cool action sequences that fit this like superhero style, because in these kinds of like movies, TV shows, and comics, we see superheroes' powers on full display by them doing like little things that like introduce it. Like, say, like in a show like The Flash, we see him show off these new abilities in a time where they're most needed, and then they just explain it. Oh, this is how it works. I think it fits for that episode. They even do that in My Hero whenever a new character basically unlocks an ability or advances their ability, and I think that's cool. And speaking of My Hero, that's going to go more into later, but yeah. We're also introduced to the Camera Kids, who are basically a crew whose sole goal is to take pictures of Palafin. And I think that idea is so cool. Superheroes often have these reporter-like characters that just follow them around and take pictures. Superman has Lois Lane. Peter Parker takes pictures of him doing Spider-Man activities as Spider-Man. And I just think it's interesting that Palafin also has these kids that follow him around. I do wonder what they do with it. Like, do they post it online and write articles about it? Because all they really say is, oh, we take pictures of Palafin. But yeah. Basically, after this introduction to Palafin, we see it save Coco, and Roy is just enamored by this superhero. And then Roy just follows it around in its hidden form, along with the camera kids and the swim trunks guy. They're just like hanging around it in its base form, wanting to see it transform, but it's not. And then we actually get a cool ability from Palafin, seeing as it can basically read people's hearts. And it reads the camera kids, Roy, and swim trunks guy going, oh, I really want to see them transform. I want to take a picture of it. But then we see Liko. Liko, by the way, has incredible character development this episode. This episode's more about Roy and Ludlow, personally. Like, this episode has a lot more of Roy and Ludlow, but the Liko moments in this episode are incredible. Palafin basically reads her heart, and as she's saying, I don't think we should be letting Palafin forcing what we want on Palafin. If Palafin hides while it transforms, shouldn't that be its choice? I love that idea that she understands it. That's her whole goal, to understand these Pokemon. And I like the bond she forms with Palafin in this episode. Like, she even says, it would be cool if I got to see it, but if that's not what Palafin wants, I'm never going to force it on him, compared to Roy and all the other kids saying, I want to see it, please Palafin, could you see it? Could you transform for us? That's why I just love it. While all this is happening with Palafin relearning his abilities and basically just the introduction to Palafin and what he stands for, what he is, I love that in the background Ludlow is just playing Sprigatito, and I think that's so cute. But yeah, after this, the camera kids come up with a ploy to get it to transform on camera. They're gonna fake being in danger and have them hide nearby to take a picture. Yeah, this seems kind of selfish, but I like that even though they don't mean any wrong, that's what the main conflict in this episode stems from, them wanting to get the picture. It's a very innocent and not really like, oh, we're gonna sell its picture online and make millions, we're gonna traffic it or something, that like a Pokemon hunter or something like that would do. And I just love how it's just kids who love this hero, just want to see it transform. So they try to fake an accident and get a picture. The only thing really is, although it would have painted Roy in a negative light, it would have been interesting to see if Roy joined them on this plan. Because at this point when they came up with it, they split off from Liko and Roy. Because I feel like Roy would have went along with it, not intentionally trying to cause harm, and just wanting to see this cool Pokemon transformation. And I feel like the episode could have needed that, because once the actual conflict arises with, since the one camera kid is screaming, it attracts a bunch of cloth that he accidentally enrages trying to run off, because in a coincidence, he happens to take a picture of one, which blinds it, makes him angry, trip over a Dugtrio and knock into a tree, which drops a bunch of coconuts on their head and causes them to actually want to attack it. Roy then rushes in like the hero he admires to save the day and uses Disarming Voice, which I love that we're seeing the move used, but it doesn't work and Roy just ends up back with the guy. I feel like another alternative could have been Roy and the guy were both up there. Say like Roy wanted to like thank Palafin again or something, while the guy wanted the picture, and then the accident happens, and then Roy trying to protect them is what makes them angry. I think that would have been way more interesting. But yeah, since the camera kids are lined up trying to take a picture of Palafin, it can't transform. Liko notices this, and in an incredible scene, uses Magical Leaf to block their view while Palafin transforms in front of it. Now, I wasn't going to discuss this later, but I hope this specific scene goes somewhere. But after this, Palafin steps in to fight the Cloths, but it's getting outpowered. But that's when he comes to save the day. For context, a little bit earlier in the episode, we see that Dot is doing some research after making a video about the sea, reading her comments and seeing what her viewers suggest and want. and one of them mentions a legendary hero of the sea, which Palafin has been established to be, but they confirm it's not Palafin after Dot surprisingly already knows of this specific Palafin or just Palafin in general. Because that also makes me curious. Is this like the only Palafin people have heard of? Because Palafin, there's a bunch of Finizen. So is it rare for a Palafin to evolve without a trainer and be just a wild Palafin saving the day? Because I feel like that would be that's an interesting route. They actually were talking about Mighty G, and we are introduced to this All Might looking figure who throws out a Sharpedo and rides to Liko and Roy and the Camera Kid's aides and helps Palafin fight off the cloth. Now, who is this mysterious Mighty G? None other than Ludlow. Know how earlier I mentioned My Hero? This episode is a My Hero Academia just plot in the finest. Since I seen Palafin, its ability to transform, all I can think of is All Might. I even named my Palafin All Might. But the fact that Ludlow, this old tiny man, just takes off his outfit and just flexes his muscles and becomes buff like All Might and in an animation style like All Might and is a hero on the down low is incredible. Like, I didn't know what they would have done with Ludlow. That episode where he was fishing the boat and just like saved the day was sick, and I don't know what else they could do with Ludlow at that point. But the fact that he's a down low superhero is interesting. But yeah, Mighty G and Palafin team up to use their hug attack on the clock, which calms them all down, saving the day. The Camera Kids apologize to Palafin and Mighty G, and they all get a picture together. And when Nico and Roy go back to Ludlow, he hurt his back and even says, like All Might, I guess my transformation only lasts 3 minutes. I think that's incredible. And then the episode ends with basically just Roy showing off the pictures that the Camera Kids sent to him of all of Palafin's savings, and they're just showing it to Freed, who went about their day. And that's when Ludlow actually notices some weird object in the background on a nearby island, and Swim Trunks guy reveals that some shady characters have recently built that, and he doesn't trust them. That is an incredible setup for the next episode. This is what filler episodes have been lacking. Yes, there have been fun fillers. Yes, there has been just overlapping stuff with fillers, mainly just Pokemon sticking around, which, yeah, that's cool. But I miss when fillers in Horizons would end with like a very interesting thing that leads right into the next episode. Like that filler where we introduced to Dot, that episode is important because not only does it introduce us to Dot fully, but also they arrive in Paldea at the end, so you can't really skip that episode. Compare that to something like the Pig episode. Although I think that's a fun episode, front to end, nothing very happens that you would need to watch that episode. The same thing with the Crocodile episode, besides Fuecoco learning a move, but you can just skip that and chop it up to, oh, Roy's been training, he learned it off screen. I can't wait to see next week's episode with the Explorers and Coral's return, if that even was her name. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot. But yeah. Other things I just loved about this episode, Ludlow's Mighty G thing. I just love that we're getting stuff on Ludlow. And it would be incredible just to see an entire episode of Ludlow's past as Mighty G. If we're gonna do fillers after this upcoming Volt Tacklers vs. Explorers arc, please let it be stuff like that. That is just fun stuff that like expand more on the characters and allow us to see more within them. Like last week's, I thought the episode overall was average, but I loved seeing into Dot's past. I feel like this episode perfectly balances what a filler should be. Fun, has... Another thing I love about this episode is how our main characters are. They fit within character and even just expand more on their goals. Specifically Liko. Like, Roy's goal wasn't really expanded because we don't see Rayquaza. But the scene where Palafin shows Liko its true form, I hope that goes somewhere, because I've wanted Liko to catch a Palafin, and I was even okay if Roy did. I want someone to catch a Palafin. Palafin is like one of the best Paldea Pokemon, and so far, all the Paldea Pokemon I love have been either caught by a Rising Volt Tackler or been aboard the Rising Volt Tackler ship. So I just really hope that somebody catches this Palafin and it's not a one-off. Because especially after spending a whole episode setting it up and developing it, I hope someone catches it. Even if it's like a plot twist and it belongs to Ludlow and he just lets it run free, I'm fine with that. Because we learned Ludlow has more Pokemon than when he's shown, when he just sends out Sharpedo. And I love that scene, because it's just expanding more. Also, speaking of Pokemon, yet again, where is Wattrel? This would have just been the perfect episode to just have Wattrel just sitting around. With Hatena, too. Because, like, they don't need to do anything. Because Sprigatito didn't really do anything most of the episode. It was just sitting around in the background until Rico needed it to use Leaf, or Magical Leaf. We could have just easily had Wattrel and Hatena sitting in the background. But no, we want Wattrel off screen. We see other Wattrel in the episode too, but we can't see Roy's. I miss Roy's Wattrel. But yeah, I hope Liko does have something cooking up, especially because the Explorer's base is nearby where Palafin resides. So maybe in a fight where Liko and Roy are losing, because they are fighting the higher up Explorers. Yeah, it's annoying that they're always losing, but at least they beat Connie and Zur. Like, they're strong enough to beat them, but it makes sense they can't beat someone like Coral or Onyx. Like, of course they're not going to beat them. They're literal adamant. So maybe Palafin comes in to save the day, and then it ends with Liko catching it, I guess. Commanding it and catching it. I hope that happens, but yeah. Overall, I'll give this episode a 9 out of 10. I love this episode, and I don't see much wrong with it besides like little story details being like, oh, Roy could have done this, or oh, this could have happened instead. This was a fun episode beginning to end, and although it may have dragged in certain points, the drag actually fits with the aesthetic and vibe of the episode, and that just adds more to the enjoyment. But yeah. Hope you guys like this video and subscribe for more content like this in the future. S-Man, signing off.